presentation as well. If you can't see it, can you just let me know in the chat if you can't see it? I'm hoping it works perfectly. I've practiced this a few times with Mrs. Crawford over the last few days, and we both think we've managed to crack it. So fingers crossed. What you can see right now is a nice welcome to Squirrels class first page. So I will get going. And like I say, anyone else who arrives soon can just join in and catch up on anything that they feel like they've missed. I'd like to just say a big welcome, first of all, and a big thank you as well. Have I got a chat coming through? Brilliant. I'm so glad that you can see it as well. I'm glad I've cracked it. Can add technological wizard onto my CV now as well. Good. But welcome and thank you for joining me. It's not quite how we're used to doing things. I know that I'm finding this very strange, just talking at a computer instead of having a room full of parents. But it's wonderful that we can still get together virtually and talk about the year. Just a couple of virtual housekeeping reminders, and I think this seems to be everybody's done this already. Don't forget that it's being posted onto YouTube in case you want to look back, and microphones need to be muted. There's a nice little chat function at the top. I think it looks a bit like a speech bubble. And if you need to add any questions in there about the year, then please do, and I will try to cover them at the end, or if I can't answer them, I will get the answer for you and get back to you. If you've got anything that's specific to your child though, we're asking please that you send it to us via our class email, which is, as I'm sure you know by now, squirrels@winchancp.cheshire.sch.uk. Okay, so let's make a proper start. I'll be teaching the children this year, and I'm with them every day except for a Tuesday morning, which is when I have my planning time. In this particular slot, the children are taught by Mrs. Brailsford for RE, who some of you may know already, and then they will also be taken for PE by the multiflex staff. And they've got everything running like a very tight ship at the moment, which is brilliant. On a Monday, we're also really lucky because we have Miss Bogue-Monroe working with us all day. So it'll be nice to have an extra pair of hands to help us with our classwork, as well as available to do some small group interventions as and when the need arises. Okay. Hello, good to see you all.
Hi, sorry.
Microphones are muted for me. That's brilliant. We've only just started, so you haven't missed too much, so don't worry about that. Has everyone got microphones muted? That's brilliant. So as I've just said, I will be teaching them every day except a Tuesday morning. Mrs. Brailsford takes them for RE on that Tuesday morning, followed by PE with the multiflex staff. And then we're lucky because Miss Bogue-Monroe joins us all day on a Monday to help us with our classwork and also to help us get to grips with other things that need doing. I am just going to turn my camera off as well so you don't have to look at my face while we're doing this. Okay, a new slide for this year's presentation. We don't normally have to have this one in here, but it's a very, very important one, as I'm sure you can understand. As it says on the slide, if your child develops symptoms, no matter when they have them, they still need to be kept off school until they've had a test. And then to support us working with the test and trace team, please let school know by phone or email the date and the time of the onset of your child's symptoms. A letter was emailed out. I think it was sent last week, and there was another copy that went out yesterday with a very handy what to do if guide. So what to do if your child has this particular situation and then when they can return to school. I know that as a parent myself, I found it quite helpful to look at and have a read so that it's a quick guide in case you need to have a look at it. Next slide. If your child has to self-isolate for any reason and is able to access schoolwork, then please let us know. Obviously, if you inform the office, they will let us know too. But if you send it to the class email address, I very often check the class email address in the morning, quite frequently at lunchtimes and things like that too, and after school, so I can always notice if someone is self-isolating. And the plan is that the work that your child has missed will be put on the day after. I know it's taking some getting used to. I know certainly for me it's trying to get my head around which work to put on when, but I think we all seem to have nailed it now. But hopefully the system will work well to support the children should they need it. Fingers crossed they won't, but just in case they do, we've got that backup in place. It's probably worth mentioning as well, don't forget, if you haven't already, I know lots of you have, but don't forget when you sign into Google Classroom that you need to make sure that you accept or join, I think it is, the classroom. So when you log in as your child, they will have a picture. I think it's a little box at the side that says Squirrels class on it, and you can see a little box inside that also that says join. Okay, so if you haven't done that already, then that is what you need to do for this year. I know we did it last year, but you need to do it again for this year because it's Squirrels class, and then you need to then be able to see all the classroom stream and also the homework. But I will go into homework in more detail a little bit later on. Welcome to anyone who's just arrived. Just a reminder, if anyone needs to mute their microphones, and don't forget that we have got the chat facility at the top if you need to ask a question at any point, but if it is specific to your child, then please email our class email address. So let's move the presentation along a little bit. As you can see, our class timetable is super, super busy, just how we like it, lots and lots of things to keep us going throughout the day. All the standard stuff is on there. You might have noticed now that there's an extra session just before we start the day properly. So when your child comes into school, there'll be a task ready for them to do. It might either be on their desk, it might be on the whiteboard for them to see, or it might just be me verbally telling them as they arrive. And it's just to sort of ease them into the classroom, ease them into the day. And as we have lots of children arriving from quite early on, it's nice for them to have something to sit down and just focus their mind on while they wait for all their friends to arrive. And I have to say they have adjusted really well to this new way of arriving at school, and it's lovely to see them bounce in and find out what it is that we're doing today. Phonics is on there too. We have a phonics session every day, and that is currently taught in our own classes. There'll be a bit more about phonics later on. Our main educational focus at the moment is on English, including phonics and reading and writing, and maths too. So things on the timetable are sort of subject to change at short notice. If I feel like we need a little bit of extra practice of something that we've done in the morning, we might benefit from a little bit of revision just to keep the flow of the lessons going and to keep our knowledge and skills up. So that's the timetable. We're absolutely loving everything that we're doing at the moment, and the children are better at remembering than I am where we're up to and what we've got to do next. And they are wonderful at remembering when we need to do our hands as well. So they are an absolute credit to all of you. I'm having so much fun with them. Moving on now to the milk. This is just a quick mention. As you are probably aware from year one, you are able to carry on paying for your child to have milk if you would like them to. The milk is delivered to our classroom every day by one of the year 6 monitors. And the children who currently have it are brilliant at remembering to grab theirs before break time, better than me at remembering sometimes actually, which is wonderful. So anybody else who wanted to have it, who wanted to join the scheme now, you know, they've got plenty of friends to remind them around. They won't forget to have it, so don't worry about that. If you want to order it, then you need to go through the Cool Milk website. The best way to do that is to type it into Google, and then I've just popped a picture of the homepage on the slides in front of you now, just so that you know that you've got to the right place when you click on it. Class Dojo now. Many of you will be familiar with this already. It works brilliantly well. The children were so excited to get back into having dojos. On the screen at the moment, you can see a screenshot of just some of the dojos that we have got in our class at the moment. We keep adding them as and when we find a situation for a dojo to reflect the new normal. in school at the moment. And up to now, we've added 21 dojos. So we've got everything from keeping the cloakroom nice and tidy, going and just grabbing what you need from it and coming straight back, for handwriting, good manners, lining up nicely, for participating really well in mindfulness, all sorts, honestly. And there is a being patient one on there too, because with transitions between lessons and hand washing and all the things that we're doing to keep the children safe, it does require a little bit of patience, but they have been absolutely brilliant at that. Okay. Your account is the same as last year. So you won't have had anything new sent out this year unless you are, of course, new to the school. You can either go online to it or download the app. And there's lots of important information that comes through on there as well, like the dojos they've received and what they've received them for, although they can probably tell you that because they get so excited about it. At the moment, we're not using the messaging service. So if you need to get in touch with school, then the email is probably the best way, although you can ring the school office as well if you need to. To work in partnership with the dojos, we have still got our traffic light system in school, and it supports the children in helping them to understand if they've made any unsuitable behaviour choices. And as I'm sure you already know, there are opportunities if you did move to something like yellow to change your behaviour and make good choices to get back to green. And each day we sort of celebrate the children who've managed to stay on green and celebrate the children who have perhaps maybe ended up on yellow and then have made extremely good choices to end up getting back to green as well. Okay. Now, I've already mentioned that our main educational focus at the moment is getting the children on with their English and their maths, but we are taking their emotional health and well-being very seriously as well. By taking care of these things, first and foremost, they will be in a much better position to learn and to grow and to take things on board in class and things like that. So here on this slide are just a few of the things that we are doing to support your children in their return to school and for as long as they need it. So we have exercise usually to start the day, something like a yoga or a dance video on the screen, to help us to ease that transition between coming in and having the morning task and then moving into our first lesson of the day. We tend to have yoga or mindfulness each day for as long as necessary. So a nice time we find to do mindfulness in here is after lunch, when we've had a nice time running around, we've eaten a delicious dinner, and then we come in and we just take a few minutes to be really mindful, perhaps follow a guided meditation or something like that, just to bring us back down to being nice and calm and settled. We do also like to break up lessons in the morning or in the afternoon, or parts of lessons even, with a brain break. You know, it's sometimes maybe what's going on in class is a little bit intense, or maybe there's a lot to take on board, and I can tell when there maybe needs to be a little bit of movement just to get us refocused. So we like to have a brain break every now and again, little dances or routines and things like that, just to get our whole bodies moving around before we sit back down to carry on. We're making sure they're staying safe, so there's constant reminders and rewards for being careful with hand washing, catching sneezes or coughs wherever possible, and cleaning our hands afterwards and things like that, just so that they are doing it even without thinking. And I have to be honest, they are brilliant with that as well. I don't even have to think about whether they are cleaning their hands, because I watch them go for a tissue and then they go and sanitize their hands straight afterwards, and it's brilliant to see. We have been trying to teach them break time games as well, so that they are reconnecting as a group, and can re-establish some teamwork skills and the ability to play cooperatively. We're also really lucky as well. Every bubble in school has been given a brand new pack of playtime equipment that we keep inside our bubble. It's got all sorts in it: rackets, tennis balls, skipping ropes, frisbees, the works. And they are looking after it really well as well, which is fantastic. We've got a couple of programs running for PSHE, the Heart Smart scheme for mental health, and also the Let's Begin Again PSHE program, which is helping us to revisit certain aspects of lockdown without having too much focus on them, but getting children just to think about that period of their lives and how we are trying to move on now into this new normal, as everybody keeps calling it. We're basically, as well, the bottom point is really important. We are trying to be adaptive and responsive at all times. So, as I said before with the timetable, the day might be subject to change because we need to focus on something in English or maths for a little bit longer, but it can also be subject to change if it feels like the children need a bit of an emotional break or a mental health break to help them to be more settled and feel happier. This will be a very familiar picture, I imagine, for most of you. As I'm sure you're aware, as a school community, we place a very large focus on the Sustainable Development Goals, or as we call them, the Global Goals. They are a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. All 17 goals that you can see on the screen now are interconnected. The children throughout the school will learn what these goals mean, and we will cover ways in our lessons of how we and other people around the world can all play our part in tackling these issues as a team. We aim to make links to them in all that we do. And we discuss the wider implication of related goals with the children in a way that they can understand and relate to. So, for example, in our topic work, we try to find links to the global goals, or in our written work, we try to find links to the global goals. And quite often, the children are really brilliant at recognising the goals, and they can make their own links already between something that we're covering in class or something that we've discussed and a global goal, which is absolutely brilliant. So the following slides now are a look at the curriculum for an insight for you guys for this term, for what your children can look forward to as they come to school. Now, the topic this half term is called To Infinity and Beyond, which, as I'm sure you can guess, has got a brilliant space theme. We'll spend some time learning about space itself, significant space explorers, and events that have happened in space travel history, as well as the continents and oceans of one particular planet, which is, of course, planet Earth. I also like to say to the children that it's the view, you can see the continents and the oceans when you look at Earth from space. So it's a nice way to make the link there too. In English, these are just some of the books that we're going to be looking at together. The text we are currently using and absolutely loving as well is called Look Up, which is all about a young girl whose dream it is to go into space like her idol, Mae Jemison, who was the first African-American female astronaut. It's already given us some really lovely working opportunities. So, like today, we were thinking about what our dreams and our hopes for the future were. So Mae Jemison, her dream for the future was to be an astronaut and to see the Earth from space. So we talked today a lot about what our hopes and dreams are for the future and what we'd love to be when we grow up, and the things that we can do now and the things that we are already able to do that would help us to be a brilliant pilot or a brilliant teacher or a brilliant nurse. We will move on from Look Up to the book called Laika the Astronaut, which was about the first dog to go into space. The other two books are on there. The Hodgehog is one that we have started to read as a sort of class novel, where we read a chapter or two every so often when we've got some time. And other stories as well, we like to listen to them on YouTube as we would set them in the classrooms in lockdown. And we like to listen to me reading stories out too, because we're finding that actually it's quite a nice way to reconnect as a class, either after a busy day of working or in the middle of a busy day of working, to help us to just take a minute to regroup and to take care of our emotional health. Moving on to handwriting. The children learnt the cursive letters last year in year 1. And at the moment, we're just going back over those letters to refresh our memories, really. And then we'll go on to learning the different types of joins. So I think in the newsletter, it talked about how we'll be, first of all, focusing on horizontal joins. That's the letters who, when you join away from them, will join across the top. So we've had a bit of a go today at trying to join an O to other letters. And they are all trained extremely hard with it. It's been a while since they've had any handwriting lessons. I'm sure lots of practice has happened during lockdown, but it's lovely to see them almost having light bulb moments when they remember how to form one of the particular letters. So yeah, all of this is with a view for them to hopefully be writing in continuous cursive by the end of year 2. But that will obviously depend on the needs of each child. Reading itself takes on a lot of different forms in year 2. Loads of different things. So we have whole class guided reading, which we will get into a little more as time goes by. We're waiting a little at the moment just to make sure that the children have settled and they feel comfortable. But when we do get into guided reading, one of the books will be Fairy Tale Pets, which was the picture that we saw a few slides back. And it encourages children to not only read the text, but also to look out for interesting new vocabulary that they've never heard before, and to make inferences about things that they have read. And that's only a few of the skills that we will be teaching through our guided reading scheme. There will be ongoing reading with me for my assessment. So this might be on book club, we might log into their book club together, or we may perhaps end up reading a banded book in school with me, just so that I can keep a track on where they're up to, and maybe alter their book bands on book club if needed, so that they are being sufficiently challenged with their texts. Reading comprehension tasks, they go hand in hand with the guided reading. Now, book club for reading at home is a very important one. We use it in school too, of course we do, but it's a brilliant way for reading at home. We'd recommend probably about 20 minutes or so of reading at home of an evening. Book club's brilliant for this because it's got a variety of texts with comprehension questions built in. I can look at the comprehension questions myself on my own book club account, and I can check how things are going, and if there's any sort of areas of comprehension that your child might need some support with. But also, if there's any other suitable text at home that might grab your child's attention, then please just run with it. Obviously we don't want to stop them from reading because it's not on book club. So anything that grabs their attention, please don't be afraid to read with them too. And I know this is a bit tricky at the moment sometimes, but don't be afraid to let them borrow from the library too. Absolutely. If you're comfortable and happy to go to the library, then library books are just as good for reading at home. So a little bit more on book club, just very quickly. The books on it are up to date. These are some reasons why we like to use it at school. They're really up-to-date books. They've got popular characters in them. So you can see some on the screen now. Wallace and Gromit, Shrek, Shaun the Sheep, Alpha Blocks, all those kinds of characters. We find it quite engaging for the children because they're working towards a book, and sometimes they don't even realise that they're reading to do that. There are quiz questions to help them practice their reading skills. All books are also available as audiobooks. So while in year 2 we would encourage them to read the book themselves first, it's nice for them to listen back to it sometimes as well, so they can hear an expressive reading of the story and they can hear where the intonation needs to go. I can also, if I feel like they need some targeted support in class with a particular area of their phonics or their reading, then I can target the books to them to meet that need. Logging in, I'm pretty sure most of you will know how to do this, but just to go over it very quickly, the website is there on the slides. Your username for your child is the first 3 letters of their first name and the first 3 letters of their second name. I love the example of Gareth Southgate on there. And then their password is an 8-letter password. It's usually a 4-letter word typed out twice. And our school code is WICO. Once you've logged in, you'll be shown your child's homepage. Their books will be in their My Stuff, which is where the books we allocate them will end up. Your child can have multiple books at a time. Usually 5, I think, show up at once. And what you can do is you can see them again in their library once they've finished the book. Usually I've allocated more than 5 as well, and automatically another one will appear once one has been read and has been moved to the library. They can personalize their homepage if they would like to, and they can spend their rewards from the coins that they get for answering the book questions and reading the books. So I know my son absolutely loves to do that. Okay, phonics, moving on to that. It's a big focus in Key Stage 1. It always has been, and it always will be. Ordinarily, your children would have been taking the phonics screening check at the end of June, just gone when they were in Year 1. However, due to coronavirus, these were cancelled for all Year 1 children in Year 1, but they've now been rescheduled for them to take in Year 2, sometime after the October half term at our discretion. Usually, if a child doesn't pass the check in Year 1, they'd resit it in June of Year 2. This will remain the case. So if they don't pass it in October, then they will be able to resit it in June next year in 2021. We are spending our phonics lessons doing lots of recapping of things that they've already learned, and I'm constantly making a note of areas that we need more work on so that we can go back and revisit them as starters in other lessons and things like that. Now, these are the common exception words, and I'm sure this was mentioned in our class newsletter as well. By the end of Year 2, your child needs to know how to read and spell all of these words. I know it looks like a massive list, but I think, to be fair, they will probably surprise you with how many they can already read. And it's quite useful, especially in the Year 2 words, because the ones with a similar pattern are able to be taught together. So I know this is an alphabetical list, but there are lists of them where you can see matching words close by. So door and floor, or mind, kind, and behind. So when we teach them, we try to chunk them into chunks like that, so that we can spot the patterns and use those to help them commit them to our memories. They are, for the most part, regularly used words, useful in their writing, but they're words that we can't always sound out very easily. And I say that they are regularly used ones for the most part, and only for the most part, because the fact that the word steak is on the Year 2 list is something that continues to baffle me and any other Year 2 teachers that I have spoken to at moderation meetings. It's a bit of a crazy one, but at least they'll be able to read and write the word steak at the end of this. Moving on now to maths. These are some of the areas that we'll be covering over the course of the whole year. At the moment, our main focus is on number and place value and addition and subtraction, as they are the foundations for everything. Through these topics, we'll spend time recapping the knowledge and skills from Year 1 and then building on those with the next steps for Year 2. So that's something we're doing at the moment with place value. We spent some time last week recapping, and then this week we've been really trying to get to grips with the Year 2 place value objectives. Homework. Thank you to everybody who's managed to get homework in. I know doing it through Google Classroom is a bit strange, but it seems to have worked for the most part. The homework will be linked to our maths learning for the week that it's given out, as an opportunity for the children to practice the concepts we've been learning about. Due to coronavirus, we're not sending home any paper-based work, but we will instead be setting it on the classroom. Don't forget, as I said earlier on, you need to do an initial login to Classroom and click on join for our Squirrels class, which your child has already been assigned to. The homework can be found, just in case you weren't sure, can be found under the classwork tab at the top of Google Classroom, or by clicking on the left-hand side of the main Google Classroom stream where it tells you what is due in. The homework will have instructions on it of what to do, as well as any links to any websites or any accompanying sheets. Please don't worry if you don't have a printer at home. Just maybe have a go at doing the work on a separate sheet of paper if it helps. Once the homework is done, you just need to click on the mark as done button on the right hand side. This will then let me know that the homework is done. There's no expectation for you to upload the work that you've done, but I will equally be delighted to see it if you would like to. It's nice to have a quick nosy on there and see. But as long as you click mark as done, it shows up to me that it has been done. You know, obviously there is no pressure to upload anything at all. Completely understand how busy life can get, and we don't want to add any extra pressure. Please don't send the printed out sheets or any sheets of work that you might carry out at home into school, as we're trying to reduce the things that come into school from home. There are facilities on there, as I know a few of you have found, where you can upload a picture or a scan of the sheet that your child has done or the piece of work your child has done. And if you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. If you can't do it, then please don't worry. And homework is going to be set every Friday, unless something comes up, and it will be due in by the following Wednesday. Moving on to PE, just a quick note about PE. Tuesday morning is taught by Multiplex and Thursday afternoon is taught by me. Please make sure your child comes into school wearing their kit on those days. We'll be going outside when possible. So please either make sure they're wearing black tracksuit trousers or they have them in their bag as the weather gets a bit colder. I know we've been very lucky this week, but obviously as we move further into the autumn term, things are going to get a little bit chillier. No outsiders is a link to our PSHE curriculum, and each half term, the whole school reads an age-appropriate book to teach about an aspect of the Equalities Act. And we do this so that we can teach children about the Act as well as British values, so we can reduce vulnerability, we can prepare children for a life in modern Britain, we can teach children to be proud of who they are while recognising and celebrating difference and diversity. We can develop resilience in the children and create a positive school ethos where everyone feels they belong. This is a slide just about Pupil Premium funding and free school meals. Obviously, the children still in year 2 will get free school meals, but if you are eligible for Pupil Premium, you also need to apply for that. There's some useful information on there. The presentation itself will be on the website, so if you need to look back for anything like this, then please don't hesitate to do so. Homeschool communication. School Spider is a very useful app to have. It's got a calendar on there, which we appreciate there's not an awful lot going on at the moment, but it is useful when there are more things happening. Logging in as a parent has in the past enabled you to book onto parents' evenings. At the moment, we're not quite sure how that's going to go yet, but I am sure that Mr. Boot will be in touch as soon as he has a plan of action for parents' evening so that we can get together in one way or another and share things about your child. Winston family and friends are, of course, such a massive part of our school community. We are very, very lucky to have them. So support is always, always greatly received for them. Unfortunately, last week's meeting had to be cancelled due to changes in the coronavirus restrictions, but I am sure that they are working on ways to get us together and to help to raise money for our school. Now, ways to help your child. There's an awful lot of things on here. Some of them we've already covered as we've gone through the presentation. Some of them were also on the newsletter. As I have already said, please don't forget that this is on the website should you need to refer back to it for ideas on how to help them. And then when we get to a time where we can have something like a parents' evening, I'll be able to by then give a little bit more focused ideas and feedback on what your child could do with working on at home. So as it says on the slide here, we pride ourselves on our open door policy where we're always happy to talk to parents and work with you to support your child. it isn't easy for anyone to come into school at the moment. So if you want to get in touch, please email me first of all at squirrels@wintoncp.cheshire.sch.uk, which is our class email address. It says down here that we will check these emails briefly before school, and I can deal with any issues. Sometimes there won't be a need for me to reply, but if I feel like there is, then I absolutely will, or I will pass a quick message on at the gate at the end of the day. I think that just about brings us to the end, and I think I could actually be the very last person who's still presenting. So if anybody has got any questions, I can't see any that have come up in the chat, which is absolutely fine. If there's anything you want to pop in there now, that's also fine. But if something comes to you later on, or tomorrow, or next week, then please don't hesitate to contact me, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I possibly can. It's been so lovely, like I said at the start, to get together, and I know it's not quite the same as coming into the classroom and having a nice big meeting all together, but a really, really big thank you for taking the time to come along today, and a thank you to anyone who's listening to this back as well. I hope I've covered everything. Please let me know if there's anything that you feel like I've missed out, and I will try to get that information across to you. But thank you so much for listening and coming along, and I will no doubt see you all either in passing in the morning tomorrow, or the gate tomorrow night.
And downstairs, I've just had a meeting with Mrs. Blaze. Okay. Just had a meeting with Mrs. Blaze.
What is it?
Like, she's just talking about what you do in your day. No, Harrison was on it, Lucas was on it. Not Lucas, like Nene Ellen.
Mum, this is what I want you to do. To do it.
I can see where you're, why do you not left?
Will you look?